We're here to fix the machine.
Battlefield Live.
You're listening to the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey on WSHO Sunshine 800 AM. Glad you joined us. Whew, I didn't think I was going to make it here. I had to sneak out the back door of Charity's psych ward. I mean, with Trump being the presumptive nominee, they had to increase my dosage of antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and other forms of medication that I have been warned that if mentioned on the air, they may not let me out and furlough me for my 2 shows that I do here in New Orleans. Welcome to the program. Glad you joined us. Chris is on vacation, and that's what we're calling it, but he couldn't make it out. They didn't get him out of the... I told him to follow me, and they closed the door too quickly. The Frito-Lay guy really helped us out. He was coming to restock the machine for many of the nurses and all the aides that work at the hospital. And I told him that when the Frito-Lay guy comes in with the hand truck to just make sure that he comes out with me, and he did. And the Doritos caught him by he started looking and staring at Doritos, and it was like, I love nacho cheese Doritos. And then so he's stuck. So we're without Chris today, but the number here is the same as always: 504-527-0800. So I got a couple pieces of audio that I'd like to play. And it's a little prophetic. Not pathetic, but prophetic. And here's kind of my I think pretty much everyone saw that Donald Trump was winning with under 50% in this big old huge field. So let me get my first reaction to what took place in Indiana on Tuesday. My first reaction is I've never been prouder to be a supporter of Ted Cruz, especially considering that he got out Tuesday night after the defeat in Indiana. And I think it's important to remember that Indiana, the Tuesday before, that had 5 East Coast states, and starting in New York, remember this, that it wasn't until New York City, the state of New York, that Donald Trump started winning over 50% of the vote. Now, the reason that it's important is because even in the states that Trump, quote-unquote, won, you still, all the way, including the ones he lost, you still had a majority of Republican voters, primary voters, voting against Donald Trump and for someone else. That's important to keep in mind. Now, my first reaction is this. The next day after Ted Cruz drops out, John Kasich drops out. So let's reason together here. For what reason was Donald Trump, for what reason was John Kasich in the race? Only to prevent a one-on-one matchup and to prevent a principled conservative from getting the nomination. Now, I'm just telling you, and you don't have to believe it. If you're a Trump supporter, you probably won't believe what I'm about to say. But the Republican Party would rather nominate Donald Trump and lose miserably to Hillary Clinton. You don't want to believe that, but I'm telling you, the establishment Republicans know that in the best case scenario, if Trump were to destroy Hillary Clinton, he's going to play their game. He's malleable. Now, toward the end of the show today, I'm going to play for you some audio of some things that many of you, and I even heard on the program coming in, on the drive coming in, that many of you, some of the reasons that the appeal for Donald Trump, he's already flip-flopped on. In fact, two of them were the day after and the 2 days after. It didn't even take him 48 hours before he flip-flopped on two of the major talking points that most Trumpkins have voted for. So this first piece of audio, so really, first of all, John Kasich, if anybody in America voted for John Kasich, please understand that your vote only served to prevent a principled constitutional conservative from getting the nomination and ultimately nominating Donald Trump, which will give us Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton's a horrible candidate. But this is not surprising. And what I mean by that is this first piece of audio that I want to play for you. This comes to us via 5 years ago, 2011. 2011, it's the Bill O'Reilly show on Fox News. Bill's out, and Juan Williams is guest hosting for Bill O'Reilly. Juan's guest that night was the late, great Breitbart. And so I want to play this Breitbart audio and listen to the prophet, Saint Breitbart.
Andrew, is Donald Trump a conservative?
Of course he's not a conservative. He was for Nancy Pelosi before he was against Nancy Pelosi. But this is a message to those candidates who are languishing at 2 and 3% within the Republican Party, who are brand names in Washington, but the rest of the country don't know. Leslie is absolutely correct about star and celebrity. Celebrity is everything in this country, and if these guys don't learn how to play the media the way that Barack Obama played the media last election cycle and the way that Donald Trump is playing the election cycle, we're going to probably get a celebrity candidate.
A celebrity candidate. Because in America, celebrity is everything. The group of people, the people to whom listen to shows like this one, more than any other group of voters, the folks who claim to have principles, who claim to live their life according to a set of structured principles and values. Breitbart said that we have to learn how to play the media. Otherwise, we're going to get a Donald Trump-like candidate who, of course, is not a conservative. Now, on the backside of our first break, I'm going to play another audio from another prophet. And I'm not going to tell you who it is, but you'll recognize his voice immediately. 504-527-0800. I'm building a case here. I'm just giving you some reactions and something to think about. I know that I can't convince you that this is a mistake if you're a supporter of Donald Trump. And I'm not a supporter of Ted Cruz, the man. I'm a supporter of the principles that he stands for the record that he has. I'm supportive of what he's done according to his work of defending and standing for the Constitution. And I told you, I was one of the first ones I can promise that any of you most of you would not have heard the original Ted Cruz campaign ad, his first campaign ad, that started with him professing his faith in Jesus Christ. And I'm not saying that that's a litmus test, because we're not electing a pastor of the United States. But if you are a Christian, it helps, I think, to have someone who is truly guided by the Bible, by prayer. That's just my thought, when it comes to it. 504-527-0800. So we're going to play some of that audio. And then at the bottom of the hour, if you want to get a chance, go to lanterns.buzz and check out the article that was written a couple of days ago on the 2nd called Trumpty Dumpty's Big Fall. Lanterns.buzz. Scroll down to the blog site and take a look at the article entitled Trumpty Dumpty's Big Fall. Now, in that, I'm going to give you some homework. We don't have enough time. Maybe if we had if we did a show every single day, we could take an hour and break down each one of these particular things. So we're gonna take a look at that. We're gonna look at all of these scandals and all of these things that are going to come out now that he's the presumptive nominee. It's really going to be quite shocking, because this stuff, the majority of this stuff is not conjecture. The majority of this stuff is not coming from the Inquirer or the gossip papers. The majority of this stuff is already recorded in court records and court documents. This stuff is already there. And it's going to be a problem. I told y'all months ago, one of the times before we started doing our show here on Sunshine 800 AM, I told you that if Trump wins the nomination, it destroys the Republican Party. If he loses the nomination, Trump destroys the Republican Party. Either way, the Republican Party is dead. R.I.P. GOP. Now, there's some version of the GOP that's going to remain. But, for instance, Mary Madeline, who's a local favorite. She and her husband live here. Her husband is James Carville, former Republican strategist. And she said basically the Republican Party is no longer the party of first principles. I wonder if we even remember what first principles are. Just listen to Andrew Breitbart again.
Andrew, is Donald Trump a conservative?
Of course he's not a conservative. He was for Nancy Pelosi before he was against Nancy Pelosi. But this is a message to those candidates who are languishing at 2 and 3% within the Republican Party, who are brand names in Washington, but the rest of the country don't know. Leslie is absolutely correct about star and celebrity. Celebrity is everything in this country, and if these guys don't learn how to play the media the way that Barack Obama played the media last election cycle and the way that Donald Trump is playing the election cycle, we're going to probably get a celebrity candidate.
There you go. That is exactly what we have gotten. A celebrity candidate because he knew how to play the media. And look, in the media the entire time, look, it just came out. CNN just beat Fox News in the key demographic for the first time in 14 years. Because you know why? Look, I don't even have cable. But I stopped watching and listening to Fox News a long time ago. But most quote-unquote conservatives or right-leaning people think that Fox News is some kind of conservative news network. It's just not left-leaning. So, all right, we got a whole bunch more. 504-527-0800. Stick around for much, much more to come here on the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey. Chris is on vacation, but, wink, wink, vacation. He's still at charity, right? More of your phone calls and more about this topic coming up next. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick timeout.
Saints of New Orleans, it's time to go marching in. And it's time to go marching in with Pastor Ed with today's Sunspot.
What'd you say there, Pastor Ed? Hey, what'd you say, Pastor Ed? Pastor Ed, you're on live on WSHO.
Are you looking for a reasonable and affordable way to enhance your image or your company's image on the internet? Are you looking for ways to leverage internet technology to streamline your business? An upgraded website or web application is the way to go. Vast Virtual Solutions is a technology company that specializes in developing websites that operate on the cutting edge with the ability to save you and your business time and money. Visit vastvirtual.com for a business quote today. vastvirtual.com.
If you're tired and weary of the battles of life, Isaiah 40 says there's a place where you can find rest and new energy to learn to fly again. It's all there for you when you wait on God.
I'm gonna run and not grow weary. I'm gonna walk and not grow faint. Rise up on wings like eagles to soar.
This is Sunshine 800 WSHO.
All right, Pastor Ed, go. Pastor Ed.
Rock worldwide.
504-527-0800 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the program. Slight technical challenges, but we are overcoming because that's what we do here on the Battlefield Live. We overcome. Because all the heavy work's been done for us already anyway. All right, so before the break, we played a little bit of Andrew Breitbart claiming that Breitbart was not a conservative. And come on, everybody knows that, right? Everybody knows. I was talking with a prominent local pastor the other day, and he's just completely flabbergasted that people actually think that there's a difference between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And I have to agree with him. You're a fool if you think that there's a difference. I mean, I'd like a journalist to ask on the first debate, just to ask Hillary, say, Hillary, Secretary Clinton, what does it feel like for you to be running against one of your best donors throughout your political career? I just want to hear that question offered by someone in the mainstream media when they get together and they look at each other. I think that would be just a phenomenal question. I want to go ahead and play this second piece of audio. This is audio that comes to us by way of April of 2011. This is almost prophetic when you hear this particular piece of audio. So tune in. It's about it's a minute and a half. It's not very long, but listen to how dead on this prophet is.
Let me start by asking you a question. Do you like the fight in our House GOP leaders right now? Do you like the deficit slashing deal from a couple weeks back that, in essence, didn't really slash the deficit? We kind of knew what we were getting, though, when we sent 63 new members to Congress during the midterm elections to Washington, D.C., didn't we? And we still have some house cleaning to do, because too many of our leaders are still part of the good old boy network. Well, I think, in actuality, I know that we've found the answer, and we're announcing it here today. We have found a way to fix everything that we've ever wanted to be fixed. Everything that we hope to address, and everything that we need in order to pass an America on to our children, the likes that has been passed on to us, but better. We will make these changes permanent. Let me explain. What's the one thing that can just flat out destroy the Tea Party movement and all the good that's been accomplished? Well, nothing else than the presidential election of 2012. If we allow persons, personalities, personas, parties, politicians, and politics as usual to once again step in against us holding out our principles, those constitutional principles that allow the movement to spontaneously and organically grow into the most powerful force since our founding fathers, then we won't even make it to 2012. We cannot have a Romney faction and a Gingrich faction, or a Palin, or a Trump, or a Pawlenty, or a Huckabee, or a Bachmann, or a Kaine. We can't allow people to divide the Tea Party.
Oh, my. We were warning, and think about the names that were listed in that group. I mean, Michelle Bachmann, is there any doubt that she is a Christian conservative? Any doubt Herman Cain's a conservative? I mean, that was a group of conservatives. And Mitt Romney even compared to Donald Trump is a conservative. And look whose name was mentioned in there. Donald Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, we have spent too much time on presidential politics. That's not even our job as Americans. The President of the United States was never meant to be selected by the people. This was the president, even in the general election, won't be selected by the people. It'll be selected by the Electoral College. And there's many of you out there right now who think that that's an old, antiquated idea that we need to get rid of. And I'm going to ask you to kindly sit down and not say anything like that. If you don't fundamentally understand the delegate process and you think we need to have one voice, one vote, per person or whatever, and that it's basically, American Idol, that we text in to a particular phone number, and whoever gets the most votes, gets to stay on the show for another week. The election of the President of the United States is not a reality show. And treating it like one is just as bad as participating in the process and not understanding the fundamentals of the process. That video from 2011 was right after Chris and I launched something called Project 2/3. This is where we were planning on launching this, and we talked to Clarence Thomas's wife, Jenny Thomas, and pitched the idea to her. She really liked it, but she just didn't know if we could get 50 state momentum in time for this. We pitched it to Amy Kremer of the Tea Party Express, formerly of the Tea Party Express, now part of the Trump PAC. And now I understand why she didn't want anything to do with this. But we were pitching an idea of gaining 2/3 majorities in both the House and the Senate, enough to be able to pass constitutional amendments, enough to overturn vetoes of the president. And we were worried about worst case scenario Barack Obama getting in there. But as we got nearer and nearer to the 2012 election, we were having the same conversation. We were having the same conversation of we've got a horrible choice. We've got a mystic Mormon in Romney, who's the father of Obamacare through Romney Care in the state of Massachusetts. We questioned whether or not he was really pro-life because at one point he signed some legislation as governor of Massachusetts that seemed a little bit too pro-choice. And so we didn't trust him. And 30 million Christians stayed home and didn't vote for Mitt Romney. And we got a second term of Barack Obama. And now here we are, once again. Christians have turned out in record numbers. And the majority of conservative Christians, looking at exit data, evangelicals in large numbers are not, contrary to what the media has been reporting, are not and have not voted for Donald Trump. Because you can't. Let me tell you why. The Republican Party, or what many of us have called rhinos, the establishment, the liberal elite, the go-along to get along crew, McConnell, Boehner, to a large extent now, Ryan. Here in Louisiana, definitely Bill Cassidy. In many instances, but not always, David Vitter. All of these Republicans in name only, or people who took the title of Republican or the GOP, but never wanted to fight against what the Democrat agenda was, never really wanted to take it to Reid, Pelosi, or Obama. The only person who had the stones to stand up and go out and stand on the floor of the Senate and actually do something within his power as an elected official from the state of Texas was Ted Cruz. And when it came to drone strikes on American citizens, Rand Paul. But Rand Paul, a lot of people lost a lot of faith and trust in Rand Paul. Being this big conservative, this big libertarian guy, this big independent kind of guy. And he goes out there and supports Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. And his was actually explainable. If his aspiration was to become the president of the United States one day, he had to support the senior senator from his state if he was ever even going to have a chance to get up on the stage. But the American voter, they didn't believe in the authenticity of his candidacy. He talked a good game, but he didn't really seem, when it came down to it, you couldn't really trust him. And that was based off of a legitimate effort and a legitimate record. But we said, hey, if you look at what the founders, I've told this story before. I was in the classroom teaching social studies and putting the 6 constitutional principles on the board when it hit me that this is the answer. The founders gave us the Electoral College to select the president. The Electoral College gets selected by the individual states. It's much easier for us here in Louisiana to select the Louisiana delegation to the Electoral College than it is for us to select the Californian delegation. You can get involved in that, relatively simple. I went twice this week to Baton Rouge. Takes about an hour and a half. It's about 18 hours if you drive and some stops to get to Washington, D.C. It's easier to deal with government in your state because government that governs closest to you governs the best. They gave us checks and balances, a system by which we don't elect federal judges. The president nominates, the Senate confirms or denies, And then even though it's a lifelong appointment, there's still a process where someone can get impeached and there can be a trial. And although it hasn't happened often, there's still checks and balances, and you still got to come through the people's house. Because the way the Constitution was set up, the Senate wasn't directly voted on. The Senate was, they were selected, they were sent there by the state legislators. And so if your local state legislator sends some knucklehead to Washington, D.C., and they vote in a way that doesn't reflect what's best in the interest of the state of Louisiana, you get two for the price of one. At the next time they get elected, you work and you fight tooth and nail to get rid of that that legislator in your state. And then upon getting rid of the state legislator, you put somebody in who's going to fight to put in a better senator to represent our state. But when the progressives came in and passed the 17th Amendment in the early 1900s, part of the progressive era and the progressive movement, and part of the disease that's been ailing America for the last 100 years, they made it a direct election. They made the process more democratic, more democracy, small d. And now the Senate is just as much subject to partisan politics as the House of Representatives was. But all the power of government resides in the House of Representatives, and we get to select a whole new House, all 435, every single 2 years. Every 2 years, we can throw the whole 435 of them out and put a whole new 435 in. They can't ever get comfortable. And the founders gave that group of people, the people that we the people directly elect, through our sovereignty, the people we directly elect, they put the power of the purse. No budget can get passed. No money can get spent unless it comes out of the House of Representatives. And so if they don't spend our money correctly, if they are not good stewards of our money, we toss them out on their butts. But we get caught up in the pop culture and in the media, the 24-hour media cycle. And you know what we don't do? We don't pay any attention to the down-the-ballot elections. And we just focus on American Idol and Who's Got Talent and Survivor, which has become, that's what the election of the president has become. You wonder why Marco Rubio didn't, after he dropped out of the race, you know why he dropped out of the race after Florida and didn't endorse Ted Cruz? Because he wants to run for president again in 4 years. And he doesn't want a commercial being made because Ted Cruz is going to run again in 4 years. And he doesn't want Ted Cruz making a commercial in 4 years saying, hey, aren't you glad, or don't you think it's time for a conservative? They're going to challenge, if Donald Trump was to win it, they're going to challenge him. And if Hillary gets it, it's going to be prime to be challenged. Because you know that she's going to do horrible if she gets it. So, we're coming up on our break. I think we're going to reach out to Pastor Ed again. Is that right, Luke? Yeah. Yep. Okay. So we're going to reach out to Pastor Ed again. So hopefully he'll be calling in here in a few minutes. We're going to take our bottom of the hour break. 504-527-0800. Anything that we've been talking about you want to comment on, feel free. Let me set up the final topic for the last third of the show. And I'm going to set it up with this little audio piece. This is Donald Trump talking about Ted Cruz.
Well, I think that Ted Cruz has been severely affected by the Goldman Sachs loans, which he didn't disclose, and it was on his personal financial form, and the Citibank loans he didn't disclose.
Couldn't that have just been a mistake?
No, it could have been, but it's, 2 loans, give me a break, okay? And he's supposed to be Robin Hood for everybody. He didn't disclose them because he didn't want to say that he's dealing with the bankers. Don't forget, he said he sold his assets.
Now remember, this is the same guy, the presumptive nominee, who floated that Rafael Cruz had something to do with the JFK assassination, whose surrogates floated the idea that Ted Cruz had 5 mistresses, one of them being Katrina Pearson, a Trump spokeswoman, who she flat out denied and told Scott McKay of the Hayride on Facebook that there was a better chance that he had slept with Ted Cruz than she did. So when we come back, I'm going to share with you what's happened just since Indiana. Just since Indiana, Ted Cruz was the Goldman Sachs candidate. He was the candidate of the bankers and the globalists. Alex Jones right out there talking about the globalist. Ted Cruz, the globalist. They're taking over. We're going to find out what's happened after the break. 504-527-0800. This is The Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey. Trey Roberts solo edition on WSHO Sunshine 800 AM. Don't go anywhere.
Saints of New Orleans, it's time to go marching in. And it's time to go marching in with Pastor Ed with today's Sunspot.
Hey, Pastor Ed.
Hey, man, how you doing, all right?
Doing well.
You doing okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, I have a good one tonight. It's a tough one. A little boy, 10, 11 years old, called me up. And his grandmother told him to call me. That was a good one. And he said he had the problem. His mother and father were getting a divorce. And he didn't know what to do and how to handle it. Does he have to love his father and his mother? And I told him, son, you do. And I know exactly what you're talking about. I said, how old are you? He said, I'm 10. I told when I was 12, my mother and father got a divorce. And I took him through that a little bit, how terrifying that really was. I said, do you belong to a church? He said, no, I go with my grandmother once in a while. I said, well, when we get off the air, off the phone, I'm going to try to call your grandmother, and we'll arrange it. You have a pastor come to see you. But in the meantime, I want you to talk to Jesus. You know that he loves you, your mother, and your father. And I'm going to call you back. But don't really worry about it, because God is going to help all of you and will take care of you. And it just took me by surprise. And I hope I told that little boy the right thing. I know what I went through when I was a kid. It was a terrifying experience. So I'm going to keep you posted on what happened. This just happened this afternoon. Okay?
All right.
All right, my friend. I'll be sharing with you again about that. God bless you, and keep telling the people about Jesus, okay?
Amen. Welcome back to the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey on WSHO Sunshine 800 AM. Hey, do us a favor. If you get a chance, go to lanterns.buzz. Check out our website. Chris and I do a lot of things there. We write a lot. All of our shows. If you get an opportunity, check out our show. If you go to radio.lanterns.buzz, or if you go to battlefield.buzz, you can see our show. We do a show on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on the internet, on the Lanterns Radio Network, a little network that Chris and I started, and we're bringing on a lot of new talent. We've got about 7 shows besides ours, and these are all just really sound conservatives. Andrew Chavarella, named one of America's top pastors. We've got the conservative capitalist, a guy who teaches people how to become a part of the 1%. In their own finances. We've got Watson Prunier and the Battle for Freedom. Just a lot of great people. So click on radio and you can see us there. Also, check us out on Facebook. If you go to Facebook and punch in Lanterns Buzz, and you can like our pages there, and we'll invite you into the group. And you can also go to Chris Pilier or T-Rob Radio. If you do pretty much anything, go to Twitter, go to T-Rob Radio or Paul Revere again. and you can follow us on Twitter and on Facebook and all the social media sites. And we couldn't do this without a little bit of help from our friends, kind of like that old show said, that old song used to say, a little help from our friends over at GoDay Media. GoDay Media is doing some really huge things for us. Rob and Melissa, they have literally taken our social media footprint on the internet, and they've increased it. We're up to close to 50,000 total followers on Facebook and Twitter, and just doing some great things for us. Also, check out DH Promotions. DH Promotions, they're doing some things for us as well. They can do all kind of knickknacks and get your swag together. And then all of our website work, if you go to battlefield.buzz, if you go to lanterns.buzz, and you check out all the bells and whistles, all the things on that site, that's being done by the folks at Vast Virtual Solutions. Vast Virtual Solutions, check them out for if you need to do anything to increase your website, if you need website work done. Phenomenal work. One-stop shop. You can check us out. So, and like I said, go to lanterns.buzz and you can see all the places. We do a show 5 days a week. Once here at WSHO, another place here in New Orleans, and also 3 times on the internet during the week. So check that out, and you can podcast it. We're on Spreaker, we're on iCloud, we're on Stitcher. You can download it at iTunes. So there's lots of places for you to be able to be a part of what we're doing. We're just trying to illuminate the truth. And every time we add another person into it, it makes it a little bit brighter. So, all right, let's get back into the program here. Before the break, and the number here at the station, of course, is 504-527-0800. Before the break, we played a clip of Donald Trump, and it was just a little snippet of him bagging on Ted Cruz about his gold. He's the Goldman Sachs candidate. That was his thing. Well, not even a day after Ted Cruz gets out the race, Donald Trump, who said he was going to be I'm a self-funding candidate. I can't be bought. Well, most people didn't realize that when he said he was self-funded, he was loaning his campaign the money. Okay? So not so much self-funded. Sure, the money is your capital and your overhead, so to speak, but you're planning on recouping that money somehow. And in the political world, it's usually done by favors or campaign contributions. So Donald Trump says now that he's going to take campaign contributions now here in the general. So apparently it's okay for him to be bought now. Now, this is how silly. I remember hearing people call up and want to get on the air and be like, yeah, but see, Ted Cruz is taking he's got a super PAC this and super PAC that, and, Trump is self-funded. He can't be bought, and he's not taking Zionist money and all this other stuff. Well, guess what, boys and girls? He's taking it all now. But he went a step further. And it's not even that part. It's not even that part that like tickles me and brings a smile to my insane face. It's this part. After acknowledging that Donald Trump will now raise money for the general election, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee has named a national finance chairman. Now, that's not unusual, except that he's doing it now. That's one of the only unusual things is that here he is a couple of months away from the election, and he's just naming a national finance chairman. But this guy's got a history that you are going to love. I mean, he's the ultimate outsider. Well, outside the Republican Party, that is. I mean, if you like guys who are outside the Republican Party, then by all means, Trump's your guy. But just remember that he was a Democratic insider. Remember, he was Hillary's best donor. Or maybe not the best donor. That's just completely hyperbole. He was a good donor. Okay? On Thursday, Donald Trump named Steven Mnuchin, the chairman and CEO of the private investment firm Dune Capital Management LP, to lead his fundraising. Oh, you're going to love this. According to his Bloomberg profile, Mnuchin was a partner at Goldman Sachs, where he worked for 17 years. He probably had like a low-level position. He probably doesn't have any connections because of his time at Goldman Sachs. He probably was just like a janitor or something. He stocked paper towels in the bathrooms or something. Oh, wait, there's more. There's more. He also worked at Soros Fund Management, LLC. Soros Fund Management. Man, that name is really sounding familiar. Soros. Where have I heard? Oh, wait a minute. That's the liberal, progressive, communist, currency collapsing, mega donor to everything progressive. Oh, that George Soros. This Trump's guy worked for Soros. Well, that shouldn't be surprising. I mean, George Soros did bail him out in Chicago to the tune of $120 billion. I mean, it's not a bad loan, right? I mean, it's not $120 billion, $120 million to bail him out of the Trump Tower situation in Chicago. But let's not get hung up on any of the facts here, okay? Let's keep looking at this. Oh, look, this guy Mnuchin has given to many prominent Democratic candidates, elected officials, and projects that are all left-leaning. So during the primary, Trump criticizes rival Ted Cruz because the senator's wife worked at Goldman Sachs. Remember, Heidi worked at Goldman Sachs. Ted Cruz was the guy who was arguing before the Supreme Court on religious liberty. You know, the little thing that allows you to go to church and sit in the pews. And when you open your Bible or just walking into the building, you don't have the strange thought or the feeling that maybe some sort of paramilitary group is going to come in and throw you into handcuffs and take your children away from you. You know, that sort of thing. I know the guys at Goldman Sachs. They have total control over him, just like they have total control over Hillary Clinton, Trump said in February. Now, Soros is part of a pretty wealthy group of liberals that are spending about $15 million to mobilize Hispanics and immigrants against Trump. And Trump has often boasted during the primary of largely self-funding his campaign and not accepting contributions from big donors. But in a news release, Trump's campaign said he has self-funded his successful primary battle and will likewise be putting up substantial money toward the general election, but is going to start raising money from donors. Speaking of Mnuchin, Trump said Stephen is a professional at the highest level with an extensive and very successful financial background. How come he didn't say Heidi had a very successful and extensive background in finance? Because he knew that you Trumpkins would hear that and be like, the globalists are taking over. The globalists, Alex Jones said the globalist. Because your lack of principles. Because when you're not anchored to anything, the wind blows you in every direction. He brings unprecedented experience and expertise to the fundraising operation that will benefit the Republican Party and ultimately defeat Hillary Clinton. Munchin, the campaign said, has worked previously with Mr. Trump in a business capacity. And I wonder if Mr. Munchkin, now working for the Trumpkin campaign, I wonder if his previous business experience was when he was working also with the George Soros company investment fund. I wonder. Way to go, Trumpkins. You're the candidate owned by the Soros people. It's a privilege to be working with Mr. Trump to create a world-class finance organization to support the campaign in the general election. Oh, goodness. All right, I got some homework for you real quick. These are things that you are going to hear about. You're going to hear about these things. I just want you to hear them from me first. That way, when we get back together every week, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., Central Standard Time, here on WSHO, Sunshine AM, I can say, I told you so. All right. That's not my only reason for doing it, but it is a large motivation. Here we go. Just Google these things, and you'll be able to go to lanterns.buzz if you want to get a copy of this particular show. If you want to go back and hear these things, I'll give them again. But here's the things you're going to hear about. Do you know about all of the beauty pageant scandals? Do you know about the racial housing discrimination suit that was settled by Mr. Trump? Do you know about his mafia ties? Do you know that Trump University and the fraud that Trump University is? Do you know he was cleared to go to trial? Uh-oh. Do you know about tenant intimidation? Do you know the details around his 4 bankruptcies? Gee, I wonder if anybody's going to find someone that was laid off, lost their job, and then, lost their home, became homeless, lost health insurance or something. Do you remember what they did to Mitt Romney? Mitt Romney came in and laid some people off to save a business, and they put people on the air and said that Mitt Romney caused a man's wife that had cancer to die because he laid off people when he worked for his venture capitalist company. You think they're not going to find somebody with Donald Trump's 4 bankruptcies? Think again, baby puppy. Do you know about the undocumented Polish workers? Do you know about his alleged marital rape? Yeah. His first wife alleges, and she doesn't retract the account. She alleges that while they were married, her reason for filing for divorce was inhumane treatment. Do you know about the Trump escort service? Did you know that Donald Trump was big pimping? He owned an escort service where he pimped out young women to high-class rollers. Oh, you didn't know about that, did you? You will. Did you know about him breaking the casino rules or his antitrust violations? What about his condo hotel shenanigans? Wait till you hear about Corey Lewandowski. What about him suing journalist Tim O'Brien for libel and the fact that he wants to make libel suits even easier now? All the affairs, the sexual proclivities. What about the rape of 13-year-old Katie Johnson, which, by the way, that was filed 2 weeks ago in court in California, and the charge is aggravated sexual assault, which is a federal statute, and in the U.S. Code, guess what? It doesn't have a statute of limitations. Oh, I know, Trumpkins. Wait till you hear about his affiliations with Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted pedophile. You're going to love that one. Thank you for joining us on the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey. Next week, if the good Lord says the same, Chris and Trey in studio. And I'm going to jump into the chat room when the show ends, and I'm going to go look in there and comment with you guys. So if you want to go over there, I'll be hanging out in the chat room throughout the evening. So we'll see you next time on the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey. See you later.
Are you interested in helping hurting people overcome their problems? Do you feel called to the counseling ministry? Would you like to become a biblical counselor? The Therapon